Great. So I just want to ask one last question. Actually, a couple. I got another one, but one last serious question as you wrap up here. Being a tech-focused forward thinker that you are, Bo, uh, what's what kind of gets you excited in the technology space right now?
Um, that's a good question. I feel like, I mean, AI learning is obviously like something that I feel like is really interesting. Like everything that is going on with what Google Alphabet does, like a lot of this, it's kind of scary. I do admit at times, I don't, it's kind of weird to have that. It's like,
Uh-huh.
is this going to become like Minority Report where it's like everything's preemptive? But I do think that you know, there's good ways to use it. It's like anything. Like we as human beings and we as everyone, like all individuals, have you can make something that is a tool, or you can make it into a weapon, or you can make it into something that is overbearing. But I do think that the idea of it is can like it's about automation. So like it's like, can we automate things? And then I think the question I always ask is like, should we automate these things? And like, how is there in between that we can do both? And so I think AI learning is really interesting for me. I think robotics for me is also like, like there's all kinds of cool um, machines that are out there that I feel like are really interesting. Like there's a barista machine that makes all these coffees in Japan that's super cool and does all the latte art. And they have machines that print latte art directly onto, like, those are cool things to have. And I think, the implementation of them, whether it becomes like something that's viable, and we have yet to see. It's like, are we going to eventually just not have like cooks? Are we just going to have these machines that flip burgers and do all that stuff? And then it becomes like, is it, I think there needs to be both, right? It's kind of, um, are we going to educate people to become operators for them? Because you're still going to need some sort of way to troubleshoot that issue, right? It's not always going to be, we're not going to be there. I always feel the tech industry is like that, right? We sell something that isn't, I think especially now, it's like we sell something that is not all the way there. It's like a lot of companies do that, right? It used to be like we build something and it was like done, and then you sell it, and then it's just like, this is what you get. But now it's like everything is because of the fact that we have all these abilities to patch items and patch apps and patch everything. So it's like we sell you something that maybe is like 70%, 80% there. And then the other 20% is like, we have to figure it out. And then, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And I think it's like, it's trying to find a in between. I think is kind of like, I like software as a service. Like I understand that, like hardware as a service, I get that stuff. And I feel like it's cool to have that option. But, is it something that like, you know, like I think it has to still do with like, listen, you have to listen to your user, like how does that person respond to those things, like Adobe Cloud Services, like the Creative Suite. It's like, I think it's an amazing platform, and I think they realize that themselves, which is like, hey, for creatives, instead of charging people like $1,000 up front for it, we just charge them a monthly fee. But then it becomes like, well, when is that, it's like, yeah, like for some creatives, like if you are a big corporation, or your design firm, that costs us nothing. But for someone that's just starting, for someone that's just like, that wants to be a designer, that's an artist, maybe they don't have the tools up front to do that, and that maybe they don't have that resource up front to put that in there. And I think that's something that, I think, like basically that competition is good. I don't think that I think there's a lot of monopolies in technology, just like in every other industry. And then I think that it needs to, you need to give way for growth, for a lot of these tech companies, where it's like, there's companies that offer a lot of free apps, that's able to make money. Cause I get it. You have to make money as a business, but there's smarter ways to do it. I think Google does a pretty good job, just as an example. Like it's like a lot of their services are free. They're able to, it's like, but there's a trade-off, right? Like the trade-off is the whole entire, like people spying on you, the
Yeah.
data, right? Like, and I think data right now it's like data is king, and I think it will be. Your personal data, like what you do with that data, like people's buying habits, people's spending habits, what people like this is all information that you know um, will be used for marketing and used for like AI learning does that in the same way. It's just kind of like how but I think there's too much of it is bad, and I think too little of it is also a bad user experience. Like it's like if you can make it somewhere in between. I think that's a difficult ask too. I think usually it's like you gotta go. It's like a pendulum, right? You gotta swing really far right. Realize that maybe that was a mistake, or we can't do it that much, and then it swings back, and then hopefully somewhere along the line we can just end up in the middle where it's like, hey, this works out.